Jordan here. Welcome to The Morning Vibe. This is where we share a positive message, some good news for you to feed your soul going into today, tomorrow, and the rest of your life. So, today we're going to talk about abundance and abundance more specifically from the sense of money. I'll never forget when I was in my early 20s, I was doing college, but also working jobs. And I had such a scarcity mindset around money because mainly because of my upbringing and the fact that we struggled for money massively growing up. It was always a thing where, you don't really talk about it. If it was talked about, it was stressful. If you asked for anything, it was stressful. And it was just this really, really dense energy around it. So that caused a subconscious pattern to start playing out within my own mind of money is scarce. It's hard to get, it's hard to make, it's hard to keep. It's just hard. It's just this dense energy around it. So I remember going into supermarkets and buying my groceries for the week, and I would have a budget of, let's say, €35 to get groceries for myself. And I've always been someone who likes nice things. Like that's never been something that I've ignored, but it was very frustrating when I could never get what I wanted, really, when it comes to the things that I wanted to buy. Now, thankfully, now I'm in a much better position with business and everything like that. But in those beginning stages, it was very, very difficult, and it started to ingrain this subconscious pattern. Now, when I was going to get groceries and to spend things and buy things, it would just be this constant stress and energy of just, oh my God, what if there's not enough money in my account? What if, I can't pay for this? And it was really weird to even look back on how stressful that was to even just go and buy groceries. And I remember like having my calculator out of my phone and calculating every single thing that I would buy so that to make sure that it adds up to the certain amount that I had so that I didn't go over and I didn't get embarrassed at the counter by not being able to pay for it. So that's how I was. So it would take me ages to buy anything because I would have to calculate it, and then I would forget if I calculated something. I would have to go back and look at what I bought. It was just crazy. It was so crazy, and I totally get that. That was a season of my life where I was, just figuring out a lot of things, and we all face these things in different ways to varying degrees, and they're all for a purpose, right? They're all for us to experience the darkness a little bit, right? The darkness of scarcity, to be able to understand and to learn the lesson, to dissolve that feeling and to transcend into higher levels of abundance. So it's all energy. So some of the things that really helped me in those stages of noticing this coming up within business and noticing this coming up within my life as I started to go throughout life in my mid-20s and a little bit later after that, I started to just become more and more aware of the fact that I was trying to make more money and trying to grow my business, but I was just stuck in this scarcity paradigm that was stopping me from making it. It was stopping me from charging more. It was stopping me from really going all in on the services and the products that I was creating. And it was very frustrating. So I started to work with this mentor, and he shared this thing with me that I'll never forget. And it was very simple, right? And it was just the idea around just dissolving dense emotions. And this has just been a cornerstone in all the work that I've been doing within my own journey and also that I help clients with as well. Because when we dissolve the energy of scarcity, what we're really doing is saying to ourselves, hey, I am no longer being a victim to the scarcity mindset. So what does this really look like? Well, when we talk about dissolving energy, we're dissolving emotion, the emotion of fear in this case, because scarcity comes from the fear of not having enough, or the fear of going broke is another one. The fear of success sometimes as well, because it's like, well, what if I lose it all? Like it's all based around scarcity, and there's so many different ways you can look at it. There's also the fear of maybe even potentially turning out to be someone who is wealthy, because growing up, wealthy people may have been evil to you, right? I know this was kind of part of my journey, but it wasn't like a massive part of it, but it was definitely there. And all of these things relate to the scarcity mindset that keep us stuck. They keep us stuck in a certain way of thinking that stop us from expanding and stepping into the true, life that we want to create for ourselves. And, no matter what we're doing in life, money is a part of it. So we need to be able to master that side of things as well. And it's all energy. So with all that being said, when we talk about dissolving the energy of scarcity, dissolving the energy of scarcity means sitting with the fear of going broke, the fear of losing it all. Whatever the case is for you, try to identify what the fear really is, the core fear, and sit with that, right? Whether it's in a meditation or you're simply just creating silence and, just, peace for yourself. Sit with that. breathe deeply, and just sit with the fear that comes up around that, and just let it flow through you. Let it flow through you. Let it release its grips from you. Because right now, it's the thing that's controlling your actions and behaviors. Everything that comes from that, because it's so deep in the programming of just society in general that we all face it in different ways. And we are abundant by nature. We are abundant by nature. Our soul is ever expansive. Our soul is infinite. Abundance is our natural birthright. Because if we are one with the infinite creator, right, whether that's God to you, higher self, source, whatever you like to refer to it as, if we are one with that and we are connected with that, which we all are, is God in scarcity? I'll let you answer that. So when we know that we are one and we are abundant by nature, then the scarcity programs and the scarcity paradigms don't really make sense. We just have to beg the question, where did this really come from? Where did I start to learn this way of thinking? And likely it was from parents or just society or the area that you grew up in, whatever the case was, right? And I totally empathize with everybody grows up in different scenarios, right? We grew up in the countryside and we didn't have a lot of money growing up. It was always this very dense thing, like I talked about, and it was something that I had to dissolve and go on my journey and go off and get out into the world and face these scarcity paradigms and act as if I wanted to become this abundant person, right? When I was still getting used to the whole self-development side of things, I would take more abundant actions, which we'll get into in just a second. But the real thing with all of this is remembering that you are abundant by nature, and then in those moments where you feel that scarcity, being able to just sit with the fear, let it flow through you. There's studies that show emotions like fear, for example, or any emotion can pass in up to 90 seconds if we simply just let it go. But the thing is, we attach onto it and we don't know what to do with it. We try to logically problem solve it. And because we don't know how to navigate it, it just starts to affect our actions and behaviors. And all of a sudden now we're making all of our decisions based on, I need to keep what I have just in case I lose it all, right? But that's stopping the expansiveness of nature, of God, of just our natural essence, right? And when you sit with the fear, it's like you allow that emotion to just flow through you, allow the fear to be let go of. And then with that, you can then start to tell yourself a new story about money, about how you want to approach money, how you want to feel about money, remembering who you are, remembering that you are one with the infinite creator and you are abundant by nature. And with all that in mind, you can sit with the emotion, allow it to dissolve, right? And this may take some time, may take more than one try. Don't get me wrong. I've done this many, many times and I still do if ever it arises. And when we sit with that, we let it dissolve and then we reprogram the new story into our minds that, I am one with this infinite creator that is infinitely abundant, which means I am infinitely abundant. Right? And where are the times in my life where I felt abundant? Where are the times in my life where I felt whole? How can I remember these things, bring them back into my mind and remind myself of the new story that I want to create and tell myself? So that's a very simple thing that can be done, but it's one of the most profound things. And then to add on to that and to be anchored onto that is to change the behaviors and the actions that follow from that. So for example, I used to get very stressed out when I would go and buy a coffee, for example, or I would buy groceries like I talked about, where I would just get really stressed, like, oh my God, is there enough money in my account? Is there just, am I going to be able to pay for this? Am I going to get laughed at the counter? It's just all these fears. And what I started to do was set up my finances in such a way where there was always money in my account, right? And of course, that comes with increasing your income, which is just a massive part of this overall. So obviously, that's kind of a given, but making sure that there's money in your account for the things that you have, right? That you have money going into savings, you have money going into investments, if that's the stock market or crypto or whatever the case is for you. And then you have some sort of money moving around. And then you always have money in your account for the week, and that's your kind of way of navigating that, right? And then what I would do is I would have let's say a moment, for example, let's say I was going off and I was buying a coffee, and I would have a moment, let's say, where I would kind of be like, ooh, I can feel like the fear coming up again. I would like kind of take a step back as I was getting ready to pay for it, and I would just breathe and allow myself to let go of that scarcity paradigm and instead see this as a request for appreciation for the amazing coffee that I just got. And I would thank the person and I would give them good energy and I would be upbeat and positive so that it influences their day as well. And you'll see that in that moment, you make a new choice. And it's so small and it's so subtle. But if you do that enough over time, you start to reprogram how you feel about paying for things. And that's one of the biggest things that was like a massive shift for me because that can simply just trickle into everything that you do in life. Another thing that really helps for me as well is just to make bigger investments into my own personal development, whether that's coaching or whether that's help or whether that's support in some way, shape, or form. Those things have really changed my mindset around money. Like spending upwards of 10, 15, 20 grand on certain things that are obviously a big jump forward in terms of like an investment, but they're the things that helped me become more comfortable with giving that to somebody for their services. And then that gets reciprocated around to me as well. So it's an interesting thing, this game that we play, but we just have to understand that these scarcity paradigms are just coming from automatic programs that are playing out through our mind from things that we've learned throughout our life in those early stages, depending on where we grew up, depending on who we are surrounded by. And the more that we can just become consciously aware of it and remember who we are, remember that we are infinitely abundant and one with the infinite creator. When we remember that, we can remember the new story that we want to tell ourselves about money, the new story we want to tell ourselves about what it's like to spend money on something or invest in something, or and to see, instead of saying the word expenses, everything is an expense. It has a negative charge to it already, right? Seeing it as a request for appreciation. When I invest in someone's services, I'm delighted to be able to give this money to somebody because of the value I'm going to receive. Even if there's one thing I'm going to learn, it's going to be one thing that was worth the money. And seeing things through that lens has helped me so much. The same thing when it comes to just a simple coffee. How can I make this person's day better? How can I just reprogram the story in the moment that I feel the fear coming up and instead just abundantly give? Have that as a request for appreciation and give this with a full heart, sending light to this person. Right? I know it sounds so like woo woo and like up in the air and fluffy, but it's all part of this. It's all part of the reprogramming process, and it's part of remembering who you are. And these small, subtle shifts create massive quantum leaps in terms of finances as well over time. So all of this as well comes with being in a vehicle that allows you to increase your income. Right? Being in something that, whether it's a business model or whether it's something that you're doing as a contractor or whether you're just pursuing your own way of increasing the levels of income that you can receive for the things that you provide by developing a skill set, by just getting into the right room with people. Like all these different things are a massive part of this as well. That's more of the overarching thing that you do got to be doing in some way, shape, or form to increase your income. And it doesn't always come with business; it can come with a career as well. But putting yourself in positions to receive what you are meant to receive, because the last thing that we're going to look at here is really that there's no cap to what you are worth. This is the big thing. There's no cap to what you are worth because you are infinitely valuable already. And then when you put yourself into either the marketplace or into your job or career or whatever the case is, and you position yourself in such a way where you know your value, you will show up accordingly. And if you're off going, developing your skill sets and different things, and you're learning and developing your knowledge, and you're going on the journey of spiritual growth and development as well, like you're just remembering this constantly, that you are extremely, extremely valuable. So when you also know that, it's very tied to remembering that you are one with the infinite creator. You are infinitely abundant by nature, right? Nature is abundant. There's no shortage of leaves. There's no shortage of grass. If you go out and look, if you were standing on the beach, for example, would you say that there's a shortage of sand? Absolutely not. If you were standing in the garden with these beautiful open fields and trees and leaves and plants and flowers, would you say that there's a lack of nature around you, or there's a lack of grass? You wouldn't. But all the time we tell ourselves that there's a lack of money when there isn't. They print it every single day. It's digits on a screen. It's not even really real if you think about it deeply enough. But yet we tell ourselves the story that there's not enough, that we're not enough, and that therefore that correlates into what we receive in life. So if there's anything that you can do is to remember that you are already valuable. That is the good news. That is the positive message for today. You are already valuable. And when you are doing these different things to increase your skill set and increase who you are and increase how you can show up and be of service to the world, because it's directly correlated to the service that you can provide to people as well, all of this comes back around tenfold to you. And trust that, and always come back into your heart. Remember who you are. Remember who you are at the soul level. It's a really beautiful thing. So that's today's message. Hopefully this was helpful. I'd love to hear your comments, like what's going through your mind right now. Abundance is a touchy subject because it's one of the biggest things that correlates to the physical world that we live in today when it comes to things that we have to pay for and life that we want to live, and that all requires money. So let me know your thoughts, what's coming up for you. And if you like this video, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Would love to see you back here again, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Enjoy your morning and enjoy my coffee.